The conference offers an additional opportunity for civil society to contribute to shaping a future with stronger multilateral approaches that ensure safe, inclusive, and sustainable society for all. Now, we have come a long way since the 12th of December when we had the last town hall. And I think we have come a long way because of the support and interest in the conference. Maybe I should like to start to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the European Union, the government of Denmark, the Ford Foundation, and the UN Foundation for their generous support to us in the department. And this support is providing us with the basic funding needed to organize the conference in Nairobi in May. We also like to thank the SDG Action Campaign and the Open Society Foundations who have supported civil society participation in the conference through additional support to key partners who are engaged with us in this conference. Maybe this is the time also to thank key civil society networks that we have been working with, the Coalition for the United Nations We Need, the Global NGO Executive Committee of NGOs associated with the department, the Conference of NGO in consultative NGOs in consultative status with the United Nations, Congo, and the major groups and other stakeholders. And these are the four sort of umbrella organizations that we have been working closely in making the conference as inclusive as possible. The Summit of the Future is not an event, and I think it's a landmark opportunity. And as the Secretary General said, it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to chart a path forward for the United Nations and the global community. As we align the efforts with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, our ambition is to create a future where no one is left behind. And this summit is the chance for the world to lay the groundwork for a world that embraces equality, sustainability, and collective action. And now, of course, many of you know that registration for the conference has started. So the registration is open. It started on Monday, the 26th of February, and it will be open until the 26th of March. The registration is open, and I think maybe we have received this question many times. Is the conference only for NGOs associated with the department and on NGOs with consultative status with ECOSOC? It is open for those two groups of NGOs, but it is open to all NGOs that are registered in a member or observer state. So it's an inclusive conference. You don't have to be associated with the department or to have a consultative status with ECOSOC. You can register for the conference. And I think the website of registration is probably up on the screen. And their additional details are in the Indico platform. You will need to create an account if you haven't done this before. I know that many of the faces I see in the room, I've seen them in every conference, so I know that you know how to go about it. But if you're new and you don't know, please go to the Indico account, create an account, and you will need an official letter from the representative of your head of your organization approving that you represent them at the conference. It's not enough to put a copy of your ground pass or an email. I think that is a requirement. So you have to upload that document. The UN office in Nairobi, it's an amazing compound, but also they have a limited capacity in terms of the seats that are available at any given time for the rooms that we have booked. The total capacity is about 1,700. But we understand that not everybody is going to be sitting on their seat at any given time. So we are going to cap registration at 2,500. And because we want it to be as inclusive as possible, each NGO will have a maximum of 3 registrations to attend the conference. But if you are a global NGO or a regional NGO and you have representation in more than one country, then it's 3 per country of your offices in those countries. So hopefully we will ensure that most of you can register. Confirmations will be sent to those approved to participate at the end of March or early April, and I encourage you to register fast because we expect it to close down, and I think we want this to be inclusive, innovative, and impactful conference for all of you. So if you have a question about registration, the 3 people that you really need to talk to, if you need to talk to, are Catherine Good, Judith, and Karma. Please stand up. Thank you.
Peace TV reporters have been active at the UN headquarters since 2010, the age of former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. They are often invited to gather pictures and news about high-level meetings and events at the UN headquarters. We usually report live on the scene the events of dozens of countries, including the US, France, the UK, Israel, Germany, Russia, Egypt, Kuwait, Bulgaria, Ukraine, and Morocco, and the EU at the UN headquarters and their residences in New York. Our news reports have, in part, kept the international community up to date with the work of different governments so that people everywhere will know the great efforts and contributions of the UN to world peace, international affairs, and multilateralism.
They are our registration gurus, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any question you have. And I think they've done it many times. I'm sure it's going to be seamless. The other thing that we wanted to share with you is that the conference visual was created by our own and very talented graphic design unit. This is, as you can see, reflects what the conference, where the conference is. You can even tell from the visual that it's somewhere in Africa. It captures the spirit of the conference, seamlessly integrating the African culture, cultural elements with universal themes of hope, connection, and progress. The visual representation, it pays tribute to the host country through the harmonious blend of traditional African style, geometric shapes and colors, and the logo, of course, serves as a unifying symbol for the diverse participation. As you will note, there is no UN emblem on this because for you to use it, it cannot have the UN emblem. We can use it with the UN emblem because the UN emblem is only reserved for the use of the United Nations. So this design, if you want to already incorporate it in your own social media as you talk about the conference, you can. And we will make the vector files or whatever it is that makes it clear for you to use available for you to use. So the conference is also, we have agreed, it will have a tagline, like a title of the conference, and it will be Shaping a Future of Global and Sustainable Progress. So the future ties it into the Summit of the Future, and global and sustainable progress, I think, it reflects the ambition that we have that the conference will contribute to. The website of the conference has the criteria and what we will call the guidelines for using the visuals. So you can use these visuals, but of course there are guidelines. It's like the SDG guidelines. You can use the SDG guideline, the SDG symbol, but not in any way that might detract from what they are meant to be used for. So we know that we are working with partners that we have worked with for years, so we trust that you will be doing that. So I'm not going to go into the details. I think these can be available on the website, the rationale behind the design, the human elements, the horizon and the bridge. I think I know my colleagues in GDG will be upset with me for not doing that, but I think we can skip to the next slide. Thanks. Now, for the main reason and purpose of this town hall is, of course, to introduce the conference co-chairs. We'll start with Carol Agengo from Help Age International, who will be connecting with us from Nairobi, and Nudara Youssef from Stimson Center, who is here on my left. So I will now have the opportunity, of course, to hand over to Carol for her introduction, but I will continue to serve as I have as the co-chair of the planning committee with the co-chairs representing the department. I have not done this before. It was done before by the chief of the civil society unit, but I think it just may be a sign of how much we value this conference and moving forward is that I'm going to be co-chairing the planning process. So I'm looking forward to working together with Nudara and Carol. So for those of you who don't know Carol, she's a highly respected human rights lawyer, gender expert, renowned for her impactful advocacy on national, regional, and global levels. She currently serves as the Global Initiatives Lead and Africa Regional Representative for Help Age International. She excels as a negotiator, people connector, mentor, and policy influencer. With her extensive experience in aging, women's rights, sexual reproductive health and rights, gender, governance, climate change, and conflict management, she plays a pivotal role in advancing Help Age's priorities in Africa. In her dual capacity, Carol leads regional policy advocacy on income security, healthy aging, and inclusive humanitarian action for all the people. By addressing ageism, violence, abuse, and neglect, she amplifies the voice and agency of older individuals. Globally representing Help Age International, she actively engages in the coordination mechanism of major groups and other stakeholders, particularly focusing on the stakeholders group on aging, a group that I will soon be belonging to, I guess, if not already. Possessing profound knowledge of UN processes and rules, she has led various organizations engaging with the UN, contributing notably to the Commission on the Status of Women and the SDG Summit. Carol is also a skilled trainer and organizer, managing large-scale international events. And by the way, I mentioned CSW. She's going to be here in person from the 8th of March to 19th of March. So many of you can look forward to an opportunity to meeting her. And we will be organizing the press conference with the co-chairs when Carol is here in person. We're looking at the dates, most likely 11 March. So that's a date that we will hope to do a press conference to introduce the conference and co-chairs to the media and the press accredited at the UN. Now, today, of course, the co-chairs will share their vision, discuss the main objectives outlined in the conference concept note, which I think is finalized and can be shared, and explain how civil society can engage before, during, and after the conference. The conference is not an end in itself. We have to think about how the conference and beyond the conference. And they also will introduce the co-chairs of the conference planning subcommittees. And I also want to again thank all of those who have helped us arrive at the nominations and the selection, and to all who have now also become part of the planning process as subcommittee co-chairs. So now I turn over to Carol. Carol should be with us online. I hope technology will not fail us this time.
Yeah. But also, Carol and I are absolutely not doing this alone. We have a fantastic team of co-leaders creating this conference with us. So I'll then introduce the subcommittee co-chairs of the conference, and we'll kind of go straight into a discussion. Also flagging them out because they will be for many of you, the points of contact when you want to engage on specific issues. We do encourage you to reach out to the subcommittee co-chairs. But first, let me sort of start in reverse order of what we hope the outcome engagement of this conference is going to be afterwards, so that we can sort of backtrack the theory of change there and see what we need to be doing now. So come May, let's pretend we've achieved what we wanted to achieve in Nairobi. Come May, we'll have a good sense of what the Pact for the Future is likely to look like. Knock on wood, we hopefully will have a good sense of what the Pact for the Future is likely to look like. And as Carol mentioned, there's still a lot of scope and support, scope to support and input into the language. We hope that we'll do this in meaningful ways with dialogues to socialize what comes out of the conference as well, what sort of folks want to input into the Pact for the Future from a civil society perspective. The Pact isn't a pact till September. This is important, right? However, rather than spending the conference negotiating a civil society reaction to the Pact for the Future, we want to invite you to present, sort of help us flip the script a little bit, because there are already civil society networks negotiating reactions. We don't want to bottleneck that through the conference. I think it's important the diversity of civil society is recognized as well. So in flipping the script, our hope is that by May, there will be a strong sense of where Pact for the Future issues and language are going to be strong. You know, we're going to have strong support for certain reform proposals in the 5 chapters. We're going to see sort of a lot of traction and momentum around specific issues. But we'll also know where maybe there's a bit of pushback, it's a bit contentious with intergovernmental negotiations, maybe the language is getting diluted a little bit. So we'll have this sort of lay of the land of where the pact is probably going to go. These smart coalitions and follow through for the same, so, you know, commitments of one-page commitments, for example, of this is what the coalition hopes to achieve, this is what these multi-stakeholder groups sort of set out as a vision, this is when we'll meet again, etc. But also recognizing all of the reactions that are likely to come from civil society for the Pact for the Future, and combine this into what we're calling the Pact package to sort of present from a civil society hosted multi-stakeholder point of view, which means at the conference itself, we hope that you will co-host or join a smart coalition. There will be exhibit space, so we hope that many of you will showcase your projects that you're already doing towards the Summit of the Future. We'll be launching calls, as Carol mentioned, in the coming days for civil society hosted workshops. We hope we have a couple subcommittee co-chairs in the room who we hope will come in and elaborate on this as well. And also, you know, all of this kind of resulting towards bringing the work of civil society towards a Summit of the Future together, expanding the scope of what civil society is beyond just this room in New York, and sort of reaching different groups as well, and sort of seeing that through. So, what do we then, if that's what we want to do at the conference, and that's what we want to achieve outside of the conference and afterwards, what do we need to do right now? Because there's not a lot of time, and we need you all to help us do it. So you can tell us what you're already doing, you can help us engage across the different subcommittees, in regional conferences, help us raise awareness of the May and September moments, and there's lots to do, so keep an eye on the Department of Global Communications newsletter, on their social media. That's where all of these updates are going to start coming. We hope to do a couple sort of briefings ahead of the conference. Relationship, or Congo, and Ishan Shah from the Youth Coalition for Sexual and Reproductive Rights. And they'll be leading a lot of the work on this smart coalitions and outcome package. So if you want to reach out, those are the people to reach out to. Next up, leading...
A hand of applause, maybe?
Yeah. We have Troy Wolf from the UN Foundation, Lenson Njogo from the Legal Resources Foundation Kenya, and Olasumbi Aina from the Light Up Foundation. Round of applause, please. We have Brenda Mofia, who is also in the room with us today, from Oxfam International, just flagging these people out so that you can come sort of find them later. And Marianne Hasselgrave from ECE RCEM as well. Round of applause, please. Lola Ibrahim from the Women Against Violence and Exploitation Foundation, who'll be leading the exhibit subcommittee. So these are sort of booths that we're going to be putting up in Nairobi. Round of applause for Lola. Fantastic. And ensuring that the conference itself is inclusive and accessible, leading our accessibility subcommittee, we have Sally Nduta from the United Disabled Persons of Kenya, and Renata Giuliotti from Coalition for the UN We Need. Moving on then, for the easy task of coordinating our civil society workshops, we have Yoon Hee Jung from IVECA, we have Ugratna Srivastava, who's in the room with us today, from the major groups of Children and Youth International and Plant for Planet, and Cyril Ritchie, also from Congo. Round of applause. And then, as the next up, as the eyes and ears of our conference, the creators of the image, we have the media, multimedia, and social media team, led by Mwendwa Kiagora from Coalition for the UN We Need, Yanda Banda from the Asia Pacific Resources and Research Center for Women, and Saru Duckworth from UN Foundation, and who is also a Next Generation Fellow. especially flagging this team if you want to sort of help share social media, communications, etc. These are the people to reach out to help us raise awareness. Moving on to the all-important intergenerational and youth subcommittee, who'll be mainstreaming intergenerational and youth across the conference. We have Terry Otenio from the Major Groups of Children and Youth and UNDRR, UNDRR SEM, Cairo Eubanks from New Future Foundation and chair of the UN DGC Civil Society Youth Representatives, Mai Sami, who I see sort of sitting over there as well, fantastic, from Save the Children and who is also a Next Generation Fellow, and Sandra Timmerman, who from the International Federation on Aging. Round of applause, please. Yes, Hawa, scream, woo-hoo! Fantastic. Moving on with, just a little task of fundraising and pulling together the budget. We have the brave warriors, Robert Utu from Africa Youth Movement, Florence Suevo from the SDG Kenya Forum, and over here joining us in the room as well, we have Jeffrey Huffines from Coalition for the UN We Need. Round of applause, please. And last, but absolutely not the least, who will also be supporting hybrid and parallel work that we're doing alongside Nairobi, leading our offsite events subcommittee, we have Rosario Diaz of the Millennials Movement and Association for Childhood Education International. Round of applause for the entire leadership team, please. All of their names are on the website. If you need contact information, the contact information to reach out to folks about the conference is also on the conference website, and I think we'll be sharing more information shortly. And so please do reach out to these folks to join subcommittees, be a part of the design, but also help cross-fertilize the work at whatever capacity you're able to engage. That's the leadership team. We hope that the conference in May is going to be, come September at the Summit of the Future, we're likely to see prepared statements, right? So we're hoping that this May discussion is the informal multi-stakeholder discussion that needs to take place ahead of those prepared statements in September. With that in mind, Maher, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nudara, and thank you, Carol. And now you have seen the names and faces of the very diverse, very inclusive, very in all levels, I think, representative of humanity planning committee. Again, I reiterate, this is your chance. If you haven't joined a committee, please do. And you have ideas, comments, questions, this is the time. So the floor is open.
Such as migration of young people, looking at health, looking at quality education. So I'm here to serve you after 55 years being at the UN. And now I'm 82, still busy. And I thank you for allowing me to embrace you. Thank you.
Subcommittee co-chairs here with us. Maybe I would like to ask if they have anything to contribute, to say something. Maybe starting here, Jeff, on my right. Do you have anything you want to share to say?
Sure. So, maybe I can give a few words about the responsibilities of the fundraising and budget subcommittee, and perhaps provide a bit of a context for the work that we have been engaging in for over a year. So, in point of fact, the search for the funding of this conference began over 1 year ago, when the Coalition for the UN We Need and the global GCAP, the Global Coalition Against Poverty, approached Germany, the EU, other donors, and foundations to fund a civil support of our donors, as previously mentioned by Maher. Much of the funding has already been secured for the conference. So our remit as a subcommittee is to help allocate funding to pay for civil society representatives, speakers' travels, the support of financially challenged conference attendees, and other conference expenses not covered by the UN. So with your help, between March and April, 2 short months, we will develop and execute fundraising activities to raise any additional funds required for the conference. So additional income sources could include appeals to individuals, to NGOs, to governments. In-kind contributions for travel and accommodations from participating CSOs and regional partners will be essential for the success of the conference to bring people to Nairobi. We can engage in peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns, including crowdfunding campaigns and the solicitation of private and corporate donations, time permitted. So together with the other co-chairs of this subcommittee and the members, I'd like to mention the members so far include Fergus Watt of C4UN, Ingo Ritz of GCAP, Ali Henman of Action for Sustainable Development, and one of the global organizing partners of the major groups and other stakeholders, Brian Luzas of Seton Hall University at GNEC, Kim Quarles of World Jurist Association, Dase Pereira of the Olaf Palm Foundation, Kevin Burgess of the Saddle River Day School, Cheryl Kazan, who's here with us with the World Council of Peoples for the UN, and Yvonne Berry of All Wind Network. We brought ourselves together, we're ready to hit the ground running, and with your support, let's bring everyone to Nairobi that we can and make this conference a success. Thank you.
Co-chairs of the subcommittee on programs, Oli and Marian, who are not able to join us in person today, just to start by expressing our gratitude for being called upon to not only define but also shape this very important conference. The work before us is extremely important and we feel deeply honored and excited at the prospects. 5 updates perhaps from us. The first being, as it has already been mentioned, that we're in the process of finalizing the committee itself, and by finalizing the committee, we are speaking about including other people to be part of the committee itself, besides the 3 of us that are co-chairs. We've received huge interest in this committee, and the challenge that we're having is just to make sure that we have a diverse group and a group that will enable us to come up with a program. We're taking a lot of things into consideration in that regard to make sure that our committee reflects expertise, is also inclusive in terms of regional representation, also including different groups, youth, women, also reflective of different races, and just for it to be a reflection and aligned to the globe, in terms of membership.
For the Civil Society Conference, and at the Intergenerational and Youth Subcommittee, we want to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind in shaping our future. We're here to make the Summit of the Future more inclusive for different group of ages, for children, youth, and our aging, our elder adults. We want to reach via New York and to connect more local and global perspective. And because the process of the Summit of the Future will be primarily intergovernmental in nature, so the Civil Society Conference is a great opportunity to provide our recommendations for member states. And we want to say that we have a say in the language of the Back for the Future and how this action-oriented document will pave the pathway forward for all the members of the global society. Also, there are big changes happening around the world right now, and also big challenges like climate change or aging population, and we want to address them together. And since it's a really once in a generation opportunity, in our Intergenerational and Youth Subcommittee, we are focused on giving everyone a seat at the table, from children, youth, and our liberated aging population. we are currently working on designing ways to emphasize intergenerational cooperation across the conference. And we know that there is a funding problem, and also children and youth face more challenges when it comes to funding.
We're looking forward to designing this with you. As like other subcommittees, we are working to finalize the members and bring together different organizations in this process. Secondly, as a member of the NGOs mechanism, major groups and other stakeholder mechanism, which some colleagues touched on before, we have been very glad to support this process. We were actively part of the nomination task force that put together the different subcommittee co-chairs and the conference co-chairs that you see here today. And we are also working actively to provide inputs to co-facilitators and other member states on the pacts and its annexes. We are looking forward to mobilizing a strong and inclusive civil society participation at the Nairobi conference, but also at the main summit itself. Final point, as the Purpose Subcommittee already covered it, I really want to reiterate as a young person the importance of intergenerational nature for this conference and on the whole process in general. We are pleased to share that next week, in the beginning on Monday, 8 UN agencies and over different UN youth constituencies are coming together to launch an online consultation on the Spark Blue on the 5 themes or chapters, which will be a written consultation for young people worldwide to submit their inputs on the pact, which will culminate into the ECOSOC Youth Forum, that is a system-wide effort of UN and youth constituencies, taking place in April this year, with third day dedicated to Summit of the Future. That's an important avenue where we invite your collaboration and support, especially as we look to mobilize support for young people from Global South to come to New York for this important avenue. Thank you so much.
So now back to the floor. Yes, I see a hand up on the right. Please introduce yourself, wait until it's red, and fire away.
Okay, good morning and good afternoon. I am Dr. Ahla Tertir, human rights activist. It's my pleasure to be here today, and it is, and also it will be my honor to be part of Civil Society Conference 2024 and to visit Nairobi. As announced, this conference will be the summit of the future above all, and is a call to rethink the way things have always been done. And as a human rights activist, I want to make a call to think about Palestinian kids, youth, women who suffer, and to make building peace, save the future of Palestinian kids one of the civil society conference goal and interest, and to raise civil society voice for justice for all. Thank you very much.
I can assure you that the United Nations is doing all it can to ensure that the humanitarian needs in Gaza are being met in spite of the rising difficulties. And the Secretary General has been very clear in calling for a humanitarian ceasefire and creating conditions that allow the resumption of support and rebuilding what was damaged. Thank you for that. Next, let's see. Please.
Great. Hello. I'm also extremely excited for this year's Civil Society Conference. So it is, and I just want to lay out a couple of observations that could be really helpful. I think there are a lot of strengths we can definitely point out to the current Civil Society Conference. The idea of inclusivity.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Johnny Sakalan from Sierra Leone. I represent the Youth Association in Sierra Leone. So I want to thank you all for this fantastic meeting. As highlighted by all the speakers, I'm proud to have been seeing UN meetings, and sometimes our recommendations are overturned based on the fact that there is an oversight by negligence either within our local constituents or government structures, where the documents which are being provided as outcome documents are not well universally detailed for their understanding, for that to be and the other member states, in order to actually implement some of the actual results that we're going to put in together in that document. Furthermore, I want to see how these documents that we are putting together speak volume to other regional agendas, such as the Agenda 2063 for Africa, the Common Agenda, and other instruments that our nations, our heads of state and governments are actually using in terms of giving back reports to the United Nations in terms of addressing some of the common global challenges that we are solving. two supposedly expected to be addressing at this particular meeting. Thirdly, I would like to recommend to the social media team that we need to be more innovative in captivating the minds of us, the young people. We see how we have translated through social media and how people are being. For instance, TikTok. Let us use tools and instruments that can speak volume to us and then we can relate back to you. How about you put out a challenge for us to do a 60-second video to tell you what is really the problem and how we can address some of these issues at this event and get a real change. And last but not least, I would like to personally bring a concern which I have back home, which is the misuse of substance within our young population. This is a result of people feeling neglected and from a country where I'm from, which has survived a 20-year bloody civil war, where we see chopping of limbs and all that. We want to see how civil society and the intergenerational committee and the old folks that we have here listen to us, have a clear understanding as to what we're saying and how we're saying it, and bring their experience over time, because they've seen the world before us, and help us blend it together to get solutions on ground, because I'm actually tired of having theories all the time. I really want to see actual solutions on ground. Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Documents as well as online to ensure a level playing field, leaving no one behind while making progress on this conference.
Thank you, and the gentleman in the middle.
Reach out to us. This is an opportunity to do that. Have that informal moment before you go into the formal dialogues, etc.
Thank you. With that input from Carol and Madara, I don't have much to say except that just maybe a little bit on the level of interest that we have seen. Tomorrow I'm going to be joining Michelle Griffin in a meeting on remote issues in Vienna with 800 plus NGOs that are civil society accredited to be in Vienna who want to come and hear more about the Summit of the Future and the conference. I did the same in Geneva. Geneva, they have 1,500 accredited NGOs. I was there, met with them, very high level of interest, full room, many questions, many inputs to the Back to the Future, which we told them we have to set that in the formal process, but we have shared that subsequently. I also spoke to a gathering of NGOs that the Danish government got together in Copenhagen earlier last month. Same thing, very interested in the conference. We are planning to be in Nairobi at the end of the month for the first planning commission, and Carol is already organizing for us a meeting with NGOs in Kenya that will be sort of a town hall there before the conference. Same thing, any NGO process or any opportunity that you hear about that you are involved in before the conference, I think that can be the opportunity also to start tapping into the energy, the ideas that you can bring together and bring those to Nairobi. Carol today also met with the President of General Assembly, who is in Nairobi. So we can see also that the PGA is very interested, and we hope to meet him again together when she is here in New York. Earlier this week, both Mudara and Carol met with USG Guy Ryder from the Executive Office of the SG, who is leading the process and preparations from the Secretariat and the OCA team, our agenda team, ahead of the, of course, preparation. So as you can see, this is really maybe 2.0 is the right. This is not our typical old conference. This is different. We want it to be different. It needs to be different, and it can be different. And from what I can see already, it is different. Here from the subcommittees, whether present in person or virtually, thank you for all of you who have also brought students. I think it's really great that they have the opportunity to be here and see how things come together. This conference will hopefully have a mixed generational, whatever professions available there. I think we can get this together right, and I think the ideas that were heard here need to make their way to the committees where these are going to be concretized. As Martin Luther King, I think, said, true peace is not merely the absence of tension or violence. it is the presence of justice. And I think it is justice that we all need to aspire to achieve, because with justice, you can achieve true peace. Whether in Gaza, whether in Ukraine, whether in Sudan, whether in Yemen, or anywhere in the world that is afflicted to the conflict. The UN is more than just what's in this building. This building is very important. As a forum, and member states come and they give us, of course, the resolutions and the direction for what we do and what we can do. But also the UN is in the presence we have in the countries. The resident coordinators working with governments to ensure that the plans for sustainable development, providing advice, the UN there is to support that process. But the UN is also providing humanitarian support where it is needed, trying to keep the peace where they are present as peacekeepers. We have many colleagues who have lost their lives, and most recently in Gaza, 158 colleagues from UNRWA, which is the backbone of delivering humanitarian services in Gaza, have lost their life, and one UNDP colleague and his family. So the UN is more than just this building. The UN is also the idea of multilateralism, working together to achieve peace. And I think true peace is through justice. So let's all aspire to that. Thank you for being here, and see you in Nairobi.
Thank you.